All right, everybody, what is up? Welcome to spoiler talk. I guess this is the episode 3 spoiler discussion for the Loki show. Just got finished watching it, all three of us, and what this is. It's definitely weird having. I don't know, the way I felt after watching the first two episodes definitely isn't here with this one. And I'm not gonna flat out say, oh man, I didn't enjoy this episode, because there were some parts that were cool, but overall it felt just kind of all over the place and a little badly paced dialogue wise. At least that's what I felt. But what do you guys feel coming off of it?
Completely agree. Completely agree. It's like they try to introduce a character without really introducing like they kind of just force fed us the character, which is like sometimes it works, sometimes it's not, but it's just kind of like there's too much probing and like beating around the bush and kind of dancing around the question. And like when we finally get the answers we want, it's like it's not like it's some grand reveal. Like it doesn't have to be. But it just seems like from the first two episodes, the way it was going to this one, it just seemed like everything was super dragged out for like almost no reason. It was just kind of like, all right, we need a slow episode. Here you go. And like, it just didn't hit well. Like, I
It
wish
was,
that you were going to do something like that. Do something, drag it out within episodes. And I do feel like Marvel has this issue where when they want to slow things down, they do it almost too much, and that's what we got in this episode.
yeah, I think it was just like they slowed it down in a shorter episode too. This was
In
a
a short
shorter
episode.
run time. It was like 10 minutes shorter.
That was the first thing I noticed too. I actually like did a double take and I was like, "Wait, how long is it?" I was like, "Oh shit!" Like
Yeah.
comparatively to or comparative to the other episodes, it was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay."
But how'd you feel, guys? Like just overall thoughts for now at the beginning.
Um, it felt it felt kind of flat with me. Um, the whole running around and like taking forever to get to the point type thing wasn't even something that I had a problem with. It just, for me, I didn't feel like the episode was as engaging. Like
Yeah,
I just felt so like a scene would go by and it would be like I wouldn't leave the scene like wanting to know more or any like I. It was just like, oh, okay, well, I kind of knew this already. You guys are, I mean, there are a couple of scenes that are cool, but I mean, obviously, this whole episode was really focused on like character development between Loki and Lady Loki, right? So, but it just seemed so bland. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like
No, you're right. No, I agree. It
no,
just
yeah, I kind of want to jump off of what Broly said, but I think a little bit, adding a little bit more to it all is just the fact that there was so much mystique and so much like wonder with this new Loki, and like how they managed to outplay and outsmart this the TVA so well. And then we get this episode where like all of that's kind of thrown out the window a little bit. Like she obviously has a plan, and she has like a way of what she wants to do, and she's being mysterious in her own way still. But the expertise and like the kind of like sinister feeling to that character is kind of gone. Like they kind of
yeah,
they humanize the character like
yeah,
instantly.
they downplayed what we like were expecting from the first two episodes in this
Yeah.
episode. Like I was expecting her. That was something that felt hella out of place for me. And I think that was like the moment where, or like those moments where it happened, that's when it fell flat the most for me, because it was like, oh, now I'm not interested, because it's like if you're just gonna do this and like you can't, you just seem so underpowered
Yeah.
than what
Yeah.
you were supposed to be.
Yeah,
mm,
and I like it's just a lot of, I don't know. It definitely felt like something was wrong with the way they were presenting this new character, and then it's kind of like you. There's one big reveal in this episode which is awesome, and I want to say I fucking called it from last discussion we had. But we'll get to it in a little bit. But if you go back and watch the VOD, I was on some shit or something because I definitely called it. But
Well, I mean,
there.
it makes sense because of the whole, the Jets. Well, yeah, we'll talk about it when it's up.
But I just think that I don't know, there was just something about how she was reacting to him, and then the whole scene with like opening the door and then getting blown away and stuff. Like it just felt like this is the person who's been, taking over the TVA and like causing them so many problems, and they had to get another Loki to help figure it out. It didn't really add up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we definitely got. I definitely think the beginning of this episode was good. Them going to the TVA.
Mhm.
And,
That intro song, that like the Billie Eilish fucking like intro music when the Marvel logo was playing was
Yeah,
fucking
that's
cool.
what
That was cool.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like, oh
I think
shit, this
the
is kind of
credits also
different.
had the credits also had this kind of like sort of like songstress like theme to it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. But I guess we can get into the episode. I mean, like we said, this episode was shorter, and it feels like we can kind of breeze through this. There wasn't like a lot to be had, but we can kind of dissect a couple of moments here and there. So we start off, Loki, Lady Loki. She ends up, she calls herself
let's
Sylvie.
not call her Lady Loki. She's
Okay,
Sylvie.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. We started off calling her Lady Loki, but she said her name's Sylvie. It's still ambiguous, and it's still
Yeah,
up
well,
in the air.
I was about to say, because she did say she admitted that Sylvie was an alias and
Yeah.
not her real name. So
Right.
And then we have that whole conversation with about Loki's mom, and she's like, "Oh, what was she like?"
and well,
and
what
like,
was your mom like? Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
that
it
alludes
could,
to that she is Loki. She's just like another variant of Loki.
yeah, and so we get this sort of like, I don't know. We start off with Sylvie ends up deciding, hey, I'm teleporting to the TVA headquarters, and I'm gonna go, basically find these golden elevators, because in the beginning of the episode we find out that one agent that she had captured, um, they're having margaritas at some bar, and she's like, oh, the health code's here, and blah. She's like making small talk, and at first you're kind of taken aback, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? And it turns out that she was basically pulling some sort of like memory or something from her in the beginning of the episode. That's what we're led to believe. She's like in her head, and she's trying to get information about the timekeepers, and she says that they're by the golden door and all this other stuff, or like the golden elevator or something.
That girl, the agent, by the way, I knew her from somewhere, and this episode it actually clicked. If you guys have ever watched the Amazon Prime show called Utopia, she is one of the main characters in that show. And if you haven't checked out Utopia, I highly suggest go watching that shit because it's amazing.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
I mean, Zootopia is all over the internet.
Yeah.
With Judy Hopps, right?
Okay.
Okay, dude. I'm not even gonna feed into that.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there, man. We're not gonna go there. Yeah, Beast War, whatever shit. Dude.
Beast War, what the? But what was
Beastar,
it?
Beastars.
But basically, so yeah, so she gains information. We get to the point where it's at the moment where they both jump through that portal, and she's taking down the guards, and then that's where that's where I was seeing like, oh man, she's taking out the TVA, outsmarting them, blah blah blah, and she's
that part
like,
was cool.
she's basically fighting them off along the way, and then we get this I loved it. Loki finds like his daggers, and he does like this little pose where he like flips one, and he's like, oh yeah, like he kind of like just has them back in his hands or whatever. And so she's approaching the doors to the timekeepers, But then the main TVA woman, I forgot her name again, Ravona or something. I think that was her name.
Hmm.
She
Ravonna
Yeah,
Rainsford.
she shows up, and so Sylvie basically says, "Oh, you know what? Come any closer, and I'll kill him." And she's like, "Go for it. I don't care." Like she didn't care for Loki at all, anyway. And so Loki has the idea of teleporting them away with the time pad that Sylvie has on her person, and so it makes sense how these events unfold because he ends up teleporting them away to a planet that's about to collide with a moon. And Sylvie lets us know that the planet no one survives, and that they're basically doomed. And they have a little like tussle. They're trying to like freaking like fight over the time pad, but then we find out. I don't know how I felt. Like initially, I was like, "That's kind of stupid." That the TVA of all people need to charge their batteries for freaking this time portal device. Like you would think, um, I don't know, like with
Well, you
that
gotta
how
understand,
advanced they are.
she's been using it for a long time.
Yeah, I know.
She's jumping through here and there to get all the stuff and all those
I think
portals.
the only thing that makes it make sense is the fact that if you look at the TVA offices, like they all use this older technology shit. So it's
Right.
like maybe yeah, having a charge would make sense. So.
Right.
But yeah, so we have all that unfold, and yeah, so we have the whole plot of this episode is basically we need to get that charge. We can't trust each other, so we're gonna have to work together like begrudgingly until we get the time pad charged and we can get off this dying planet. So, how did you what did you guys feel when we first got to this? What was the name of the planet? It was called like Lenthal or something like that.
Hmm.
Lamentus.
Elemental,
Lament.
Lamentus.
That was the name of the episode. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to go to an apocalypse because that's probably one of the the places that she meant to go because that's what she was doing to avoid the what is it,
TVA.
TVA.
Yeah.
And
I do think it was funny that we have this apocalyptic like shitty hellhole of a place and the year is 2077.
it has
I
to
was
be
like, yo,
some
shout out
kind
to
of connection.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, the
Shout out
some
to
kind of time.
Cyberpunk
Yo,
and everything.
and that's really funny because the episode, like the location that they're at when they're like running, I know this kind of skips ahead, but when they're like running in the
Yeah.
city, it's
Yeah.
like all
Welcome to Night
cyberpunk
City,
and
dude.
shit. Yeah, dude.
We had that in fucking Winter Soldier and now we're having it again in this one, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Welcome to Night City.
It was so good. The moment
I
that
will
shit was
say
happening, I was like, "Oh my god, here we go."
what the earlier whenever they ran into that lady with the freaking air gun or whatever the hell that was,
Oh, that was cool.
that area looked like Borderlands to me. I played like every Borderlands game, and that looked like if the set of the Borderlands movie looks like that, then that would be fucking cool. But but yeah, go ahead, bro. You were saying that about the year and stuff.
About the well, yeah, like I was saying, like, they were using this to avoid all the TVA,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, a big portion of this episode is them just kind of having a conversation, and I'm guessing like trying to get the like information out of each other. Like her first purpose was, oh, I need to get the temp pad from him, and so she's trying to trick him. I mean, you can't out trick Loki. That's kind of like the point he's making. It's like you're not gonna be able to get it away from me. Like don't try, right? And I think in his mind, this whole episode, he was always thinking, oh, she's just another version of me, right? Like a variant of me. So I should be able to, pinpoint what she's all about. But she keeps pushing away, saying, no, I'm not. I'm not Loki. Don't call me Loki. And she says her name's Sylvie. So obviously it's probably Sylvie the Enchantress because she keeps mentioning that she enchants people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they're kind of like stuck. They need to power up the temp pad, so to speak. So they're looking for a power source, and the only power source is is like their only hope. That place is hope because they're looking to jump back to the TVA.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Or like at least off the planet. They're just trying to like trying to survive this like apocalypse
right.
basically. And
Yo,
so
the first thing I thought when they landed on that planet and I saw all the purple around, I was like, "Oh, Thanos!" Like, I don't know why that was like the first thing that popped into my head. Like,
I definitely I thought it was gonna be a planet that we had no. I thought it was gonna be like nowhere or something like that. But like,
yeah, that would have been cool.
um, but yeah, it was. I mean, I really think the while this episode fell flat for a lot for all of us, I guess. I do think the design of the planet and the world they were in was very cool. Like everything looked interesting, and it's just
So,
it's one of
yeah,
those things where I'm like, oh, this is what me myself and I guess other people talk about when we say like, oh, like wacky time space adventure with Loki. Like this is kind of what I was thinking, like finding planets like this and just doing shit in time and space.
so I agree. I think the overall general world building in this episode was done well. Um, but when it came, it's where it falls flat is not like the world building in this episode is so great. Like you just go from like one place to another, and you just see how like the city looks so fucking dope. Like like all the little like behind the scenes stuff, like those like um what is it? Those cops in the arc that had like the blue suits or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck. Like all
Hmm.
that shit was how you see the cities like all trying to get like it's so crazy how they built this city around these two people in the episode, and that part was really dope. But everything else is I have problems with,
Yeah,
and I
like
guess the action too was all right.
that's what it goes back to my earlier complaint about the character of Sylvie's character becoming like humanized and like losing that sort of finesse and mystique that she had from the earlier episodes is we get those moments where they're interacting with these guards from this planet and it's like if you can battle against the TVA for like encounter after encounter and they have these sticks that disintegrate you and you've managed to uh, you know overpower them and make them like struggle against you, how are these like random guards like giving you problems? Like I've always had that little nitpick in my mind where I'm like there needs to be consistency with your skill set and what you're capable of. And I mean there's
Yeah,
always factors. It's like, oh, she was obviously tired and like she's not in full control. She obviously cares about plans and she's not, there's no plan here. She's just kind of sitting in the middle of a room full of guards. But I still think it's just like when she's getting choked out and then Loki throws the dagger and she's like, nice throw. Like it's just like I feel she shouldn't have been in peril to begin with. It's just something that it's a means to an end. It's an action scene for the sake of an action scene because there needs to be some sort of problem for them reaching their goal on this planet. And I mean, I do like, I love the set design for a lot of these different places that they end up having these scenes on. Um, but yeah, a lot of it felt weird. Like there was just so many. It was like we're killing each other, we're testing each other, we're trying to kill each other, and then we're questioning each other, and then we get this like random out of nowhere like Loki just opens up about his like life and how his mom is and like how she probably is disappointed in him now, and it's just like I know it's just one of those things where I can kind in the back of my mind I can convince myself, okay, hey, maybe Loki's trying to be vulnerable because he's trying to get the upper hand on her, so like he's doing it on purpose. But
But what's
I
the
don't know,
point? That
yeah,
that's that's
it
my
just
thing.
feels so
What's the
forced.
like? What's the point? Like, what does he need her for? Right? That's the biggest problem with this episode is they pretended like the last episode didn't exist. They didn't talk about anything about her plans. They didn't tell her like what was the effect of it. No one. They didn't show anything about the effect of it. It was literally focused on them. You only see the TVA for the first 10 minutes of the episode, and then that's it. They're gone, and you were focused on them trying to get out, and them getting out was like, don't like the train thing was so pointless. Like, what was the point of the train other than
Getting
oh
them closer to the arc.
let's get Loki drunk and
Yeah.
start singing stuff like
okay, hey,
oh,
whoa, that part was
no,
so
no, no, no,
dope.
no, no. So let me kind of explain it. The episode itself is not bad. Like the things on the exterior of it, right? Like the music, freaking like pretty damn good, right? The effect was pretty good. The last few scenes were really sick, right? It was like one whole shot. They didn't take any breaks. They just followed them the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that, the choreography was really, really good. Like they're good, right? It's a good like production. But the thing that falls flat is like the characters and how they are carrying their character with the dialogue given. Like the writing is kind of just it's not. I'm not gonna say it's awful, right? Because it's cool and it's intriguing, but it's not fun. It's not like like it doesn't make me think too hard because
It
they don't give me
feels
a reason.
very cliche.
Kind of, in a way, in a way.
That's what it feels like. It feels very cliche.
Yeah,
Yeah. I can agree with that. Like, there's
and
a
then,
lot of things that felt very cliche.
yeah,
Like,
and just yeah, like I mean, I'll get more into it when we talk about the ending of this show, and they do have a big reveal, so I'll give them that. It's not like it's not like an episode that you can just say, okay, you don't have to
Mhm.
watch it.
I mean, I will give. There is a reason why Loki needs her, and the reason is because she knows about the whole charging of this pad. So, like, he
Okay,
can't do that on his
but
own.
by the end of that, now what?
Yeah, obviously, like that's what we get at the end. So then you can reflect at that point and be like, okay, well now what's the point? But as you're watching the episode, that's not a factor that can make it plummet in any way. Yeah, I
Right.
think it's
Like,
just that was the goal. He needed her to charge it, but then he needed to find a way to have it charged, but without him getting left behind or being killed.
yeah, but like you could even think of it that way and say, okay, he needs her to get in charge. Why? Like, couldn't he just figure it out and charge it himself? Like, I'm
Not when
sure it's
there's an
not that hard.
apocalypse going on. I don't think. Like, what's your better odds? You gotta play smart. So it's like, are my odds better of me trying? She obviously knows this planet. She knows what the apocalypse is about. She knows what the end goal is for these people on the planet. So she has a lot more answers than he does. Then
Right. But
there's
like,
only 12
okay,
hours or whatever.
so she knows all this stuff, right? But she's still stuck. So it's not like she's like got connections. She's like, oh, let's take this secret path. This will take
I'm
us on
I'm
the
just
arc.
answering what
I,
you're what I'm
I
answering what
don't.
you're saying. That why Loki would want to go with her, and
I,
I'm
and
just
I,
saying that's the answer I got from it.
I got you. I just think it wasn't really like they didn't give a reason very well. Like for him to just light it, he needs her to charge it. Like it's just it's weak at best. That's what I'm saying.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean,
but
I
that's
think
but
I think
that's
that's like goes into what I was talking about, the character of Sylvie, like just bad pacing and writing with her right now in this episode.
Right.
and that also falls into another category or into what I was saying too about the whole being cliche because it's like this whole thing where it's like two people who are enemies end up like having like the what's uh what's that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So like they both have like a same goal. They both are like they're both in the same predicament, which is if they don't get out of there, they're dead. So
Yeah,
what happens is like they have two enemies who put them in a predicament where they have to like look
work
out for
together.
each other,
Yeah,
and so they have to work together, and then eventually like the whole like I hate you, no I hate you thing goes away, and it turns out that they like each other. Like it's super super cliche stuff. Now I don't know if it's done on purpose or if this is like some cap shit, like if they're capping this whole time and it's just like some fucking big, oh yeah, haha, we fucked with you type shit. I don't know. But that it seems so cliche at this point that it's almost like, wait, is this like an actual like Marvel TV show? Like comparative to like everything else that we've seen
That's
so
what it
far.
felt. It didn't feel like a
Yeah,
Marvel
it's
show.
like yeah, I was like, is this like am I watching the same show? Like
yeah. I,
Uh,
I will. It also it really gave me a feeling like if they were to make this one episode a movie, it felt like they gave me the beginning, middle, and end because it was so short. Like they were trying to tell a movie's worth of like progression from their main goal to where they concluded, and then it was supposed to be like a cliffhanger ending or whatever. But it felt like there was supposed to be a whole movie's worth of information in this episode, and then they gave me the bits that like didn't add up to an episode. Like I don't know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
because we had like I just felt like we had an action sequence like every other turn, and it was so weird because before in the other two episodes, there was a lot of like very thought-provoking dialogue, and there was a lot of like world building in the sense of like understanding how things work in the TVA whole timeline, the sacred timeline stuff. So this one just felt like boom, boom, boom. We're moving. We're talking about love and daggers, and then we're moving, talking about your mom,
Yeah, see,
and
that's what I'm
then
saying. Like that's the part that fell flat for me was like the dialogue prior to the action.
yeah,
It was always like, I'm trying to say something. No, well, I'm cooler than you. No, I'm
mm-hmm,
cooler than you.
mm-hmm,
My mom and no, your mom. Action, and then they like to start fighting. And but like
yeah,
the dialogue is so bland and like uninteresting. Like
mm-hmm. The only part that I mean, me personally, the part that got me like Loki, Tom Hiddleston's the way he was presenting like what he was describing his mom. Like
oh, that part was
we
cool.
we
That part
got
was
like
cool.
us as an audience. Like if you've watched him in other movies, you understand like how he's had this turmoil with his parents and with
Yeah.
his mom. You kind of understand and feel for him better, and so that's why whenever we get like the dialogue going from him to her, it's kind of like just a little bit of like it kind of just throws you for a loop because we're not as invested in Sylvie. So we're like trying to get these deep emotional conversations with someone who's brand new. It's like if you took the the Thor from the first movie, like the like I'm mighty and I'm Thor and I never lose a fight and I'm super confident, and then he just confined all of his
Character
inner
development.
workings, all of his like emotions in just like a random character that we just met like in a second movie. I don't know. It's just it didn't mesh well enough for me, and I think the directors took the idea of what would be cool if we got one Loki trying to outplay another Loki, and let's see, like I'm sure that'll be a fun episode. Like that's kind of like what all the cliches come from, is like let's have that dynamic of two
Yeah.
tricksters working together and let's play off of that. And it just kind of didn't really hit all the marks.
It's just, it's he kind of just went out of character a little. Like I just didn't. I don't like. I hope we get maybe some kind of clarification because the way he handled that whole train thing was just very off. It's like why did he feel the need to get drunk? One, like two, like because he's usually someone that knows what the goal is and does what he needs to do the goal. And in this one, it's kind of like I don't know, like if you got emotional, right? And Loki's not an emotional person, but like for some reason he just became an emotional character in that episode, and it's just kind of like what, like why, like
Well,
what
I
are you
mean, I
doing?
think the thing is, Loki's always been an emotional guy, and I'll kind of counter what you're saying a little bit here because I think we get hints. We have to always remember, even though the show tried to TLDR this new Loki from just the first Avengers movie to get caught up with everything the other Loki did.
Uh huh.
We have to remember that he mentions it in this episode. He's like, you know what? I think this is the furthest I've ever walked. And she's like, must have been a good life, and so it was a prince. He was a god, and he was the son of Odin. So he was a party guy. He was, a life of luxury for the most part. And
Yeah,
so
but he was also cunning, and he was also, backstabbing
yeah,
and
but
scheming
I'm just
about
saying, like
stuff.
we know in like he after with what he learns into the first Avengers movie, like he is a distraught guy. All thinks his whole life is a sham. Thinks that him being adopted and his parents didn't tell him and all that stuff. So he's got a lot of inner stuff going on, and then he gets unfolded with all this shit on the TVA screen. So he's definitely not. You got to play this Loki very differently from what we're used to, because he can say all he wants, like, "Oh yeah, I'll figure it out, and I'm just gonna trick them, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
pretend to be
I
this."
would agree with you. This was the Loki from after Endgame. I would agree with you because he went through all that and he kind of went through a character development and he had his arc where he kind of felt by the end of it, Ragnarok, he kind of felt like, okay, maybe Thor is a good brother. Maybe I had a good dad. Maybe my family is good, right?
Uh-huh.
The only one that he really, really cared about was his mom, but he didn't really go through that betrayal thing because this Loki stopped right after Avengers 1,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so all the information I can really gather, right, is from Thor 1 and Avengers 1. Those are the only times that you really see this Loki.
Yeah.
And this Loki was very, mischievous. He was killing people. Okay, he was, he was already working with Thanos, right? Brought in all these people, these aliens to take over Earth. So I don't see that. I don't see that kind of like, oh, he's distraught or he's kind of like, thinking in his ways and stuff like that. Maybe when he sees himself through the TVA and thinks, oh, maybe the path that I chose was wrong or something. That could be one way of turning it, but I just
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I'm not saying he's still like evil Loki, but what I'm saying is that he's someone that's focused, and that like when he needs to get something done, he'll put his mind to it and do it. Like yeah, there's time for mischief. Like I think that's what it is that they try to show a mischievous side of Loki that he didn't really show off in the movie, where he's kind of like just pranking and playing around. And this is why he did all the singing and dancing and stuff on the train, right? Like that's where maybe that's what they're trying to do. It's just again they didn't really.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of things. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe that was his way of trying to make her be more comfortable with him too. And yeah, I don't know. There was like a good part of this episode where I was like, is fucking Loki trying to bang himself from another fucking timeline, dude?
I
Like,
mean, yeah, I don't know. Like
I
he kept
mean,
mentioning love and
if
daggers
there's
and
if there's
stuff.
any character in the Marvel universe that would, I
I
would
they
say
well
Loki.
they had that conversation where she was like, well, do you have any princes or princesses waiting for you?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, a little bit of both. And then he says, as just the same as you or something like that. And she
Uh-huh.
kind of like nods at him. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, she
like,
just
yeah,
says like,
they
"Oh yeah, wait, I have someone on the other side." But I think she was like messing around because she's like,
Yeah,
"Bro,
because
I'm
she
like,
says like she basically says like yeah, but none of them ever mattered really, and he was like yeah, like he just kind of like accepts it. He's
I'm
like
like
yeah,
they're
it's
trying to
true.
feed like some kind of love." So I don't know. Like like you go from one episode that ended, and it's like, oh, she's the main bad guy, or she's a bad guy, she's doing all this shit, and then you go into it, and it's like a rom com buddy movie kind of thing. I don't know. That's where I come. That's why the big shift is just kind of a little bit jarring because the tone of it kind of just um. But yeah, I think we could talk about the big reveal.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, the big reveal and the thing that I said that I called was I was saying last time that I believed that the TVA, the people working at TVA, weren't like just set there. They were like plucked from different parts of time, and they were just like kind of all brainwashed or like being used to work there. That was I just felt like something about the whole jet ski thing, and then something about the guy at the desk not knowing what a fish is, like all of that just felt weird. And so we get the reveal from Sylvie that basically the girl in the beginning of the episode that she was with drinking margaritas with or whatever, she was like, yeah, I had to dig deep, and the only memory I could find was from hundreds of years ago where she loved margaritas. And then Loki says, wait a second, wait, what? And she was like, yeah, like that's the memory that she had. And he was like, I was told that everyone at the TVA was created there and then to work there. And she's just like, no, that's ridiculous. And so, sure enough, like there's something not right with the TVA. There's definitely a big no going on. And all I know is Mobius needs to get a fucking jet ski now. Like we got to get the boy a jet ski.
Yeah,
yep.
But yeah, honestly, that's the big reveal, and that opens up a lot to be discovered in later episodes. But this episode doesn't give us much more about future plots because we're just dealing with this major crisis of we're on a dying planet and we're about to die. And the whole rest of the episode is they're at the city where the Ark is, and the Ark so basically the time pad breaks whenever Loki gets tossed out of the train, um, during his tumble, and she kind of gives up hope for a bit, and then he says, "You know what? In this timeline, they don't make it off the planet, and the Ark system, the Ark freaking ship blows up. But this time we're here, so maybe we can make a difference and actually make it out of here." And that's the whole rest of the episode. Is basically them in this like chaotic city where everything's blowing up, and they're just fighting their way. It was cool. It reminded me of that. What's that movie that we saw, bro? 1870 whatever, 1973 or something.
1917, I think.
Yeah, 1917,
Well,
where
then,
that whole movie's like shot in one go.
yeah.
It was really cool that they did that sort of deal where they're just a camera following them through the chaos, and everyone's like running and shit's blowing up and falling apart, and it was shot really really well. um, but there was some parts of it that was just kind of weird. They were like, "Oh, we walked over here. Oh wait, let's go take cover and sit by this thing," and then they like sat there for a second, and then they got up and then started walking. And I guess it's just they're trying to build on that chaotic feeling of just this entire city going up in flames. But how'd you guys feel about the ending, and what do you think?
I think that that whole running through Explosion City thing was like, I mean, it was cool. It had cool parts. My one of my favorite part of that whole entire ordeal was when they're running, and part of the arc or a building is like starting to fall, and Loki just like turns and like looks at it, and it just like starts going back up,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
was
like,
wondering about that.
I was like, since wait, Loki can do that? Like, that's kind
Yeah,
of
I
crazy.
definitely feel like I need to rewatch Thor 1 because I haven't seen it in a while. I know Loki's done things like where he like disappears and he like has apparitions of like people diving through him, and it's not actually him. Like I've seen that before, but I've
Yeah.
never seen him. Like I'm trying to remember in Thor 1 if like when they're fighting the frost giants, like if one of them's falling and then he just like makes them move or something. I don't know, but
I don't know,
yeah, that
man.
that
He
part stuck out
stopped
to
like
me.
he stopped a falling building with his mind.
Yeah.
That's some like Professor X type shit. Like, what the
Uh,
fuck? Like, what the hell? Yeah, so
Yeah, I don't
that
know.
tripped me
That was
out.
weird.
That tripped me out too. I mean, it was cool to see because it's like, oh shit, but then it's also like, wait, man, I don't think you should. I don't think you can do that. Like, can you do that? I don't know if you can do that.
How you could do that?
I didn't know you could
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
The
I
ending was
mean,
cool.
the
The
ending was
big reveal thing
cool.
was cool.
It was cool. They
It
couldn't get
wasn't.
off, and the ship blew up, and everyone's kind of like, "Well, shit." And Sylvie runs, kind of walks away, and then it ends like that. It just ends like right there. That was just like, wait, what? It ended? Um, and so I don't know. I don't even know what the plan was. They get off, and then what? Like they're still stuck there.
well, I'm sure she has like either home bases or something across time, or maybe
No, what I think's
one of
gonna
the
happen.
pods one of the
What I think.
pods that she sent flying through the
What
different things.
what I think's gonna happen is they're gonna find a way. I don't know how they're gonna find a way, but they're gonna find a way to make the timeline go some way weird, right? So where it shows up as a brand, and the TVA are gonna come and they're gonna try to jump that portal there. You know what I mean? Um, like I said, I don't know how. If the apocalypse happens, weird. But I think that's how they're gonna go. They don't have a temp pad. They have no way of getting off. They need the TVA to come to them so they can go with them. But again, we don't know what's happening in the other world because of what she did with all her bombings, like all those jars that she sent out to different timelines. And again, like that was like my biggest disappointment. It's like we didn't get anything out of that. We were just kind of like they're just stalling till the next.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder why this episode was shorter, and I don't know, because sometimes it happens, right, with shows where sometimes the episodes are directed by different people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm wondering if this is one of those cases, or if it was just, yeah, it had something to do, like something COVID wise, that made this one like suffer a little bit. I'm not too sure what what the process is for deciding how long each episode is, and how much time they have for a certain part of the story.
Gotta
But
go with the script. I mean,
I
if you really want to, and like,
I wouldn't be surprised if the whole like ending half of the episode was all cap, because I feel like something that they would do is, you remember the scene where they're walking and she's trying to explain
her
her
powers.
mind powers or whatever, and he's like, well, hey, can't you do that to me, like, and I'll just take a nap in my subconscious while like you walk me or whatever the fuck. And she's like, that's not how it works. um but I feel like it's gonna be I feel like what they could do is be one of those things where like she actually did do it to him, and
Uh
like
huh.
this whole thing that's happening is all inside his head.
Yeah, I had that. It was like lurking in my mind for sure. Especially that one part where it was like a very long pause. When they first get to the planet, and then they're walking through like the field of like a bunch of little asteroid pebbles falling down, and
Mm-hmm.
they get into that little like I don't know, like machinery.
kind of a shack.
They get into that little machinery shack, and there's like this long pause where she has her hands out, and she goes and like touches his neck on both ends, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And so, I mean, I could see it happening there. So I won't rule it out for sure. That definitely sounds like it could happen, um, but yeah, I don't know. Like she keeps complimenting him on a very talented magician or whatever. So like maybe he just could withstand it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
I'm
weird.
not. Yeah, not too
But
sure.
um, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. There was no, at least to my knowledge, I checked, but there was no scene after the credits,
No, there
and
wasn't.
um, and yeah. Besides that, like I said, the episode really didn't leave much to be discussed, other than the simple moments between the two. I mean, I think we brushed over a little bit, but yeah, we had the whole conversation with them about when they were sitting on the train, and they were just talking about love, and like what love is, and love is hate, and all this stuff. Like it's interesting to, I don't know, it just, if it definitely feels like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like relationships are always like subtle, and
Yeah.
feelings are always subtle. Like I think the most we've ever got of that, like an actual Marvel relationship that went all out, was like WandaVision. um, but like uh, I think it's cool to learn a little bit about how Loki perceives love, and like what the god of mischief would ever do with something like that. So it's like it's a cool conversation to look onto, but again, just it just sucks that the episode itself just had a lot of weird ways of presenting conversations between these two characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
But all right, I guess we can wrap it up here. We can just say our scores. I think I went first last time, so bro, you can go first.
Um, 3 out of 10.
You're saying 3 out of 10?
3 out of 10. I won't go
Dang.
lower because it's not like I think the other parts of the episode, production wise, was really good. Thought the episode itself was just boring and bland, and just at times just didn't really make sense. But I think music and the looks, the scenes, and then the background and stuff was pretty good. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. And for Gus?
I'd give it a 4.5 out of 10. Um, yeah, basically everything outside of the, the character dialogue between Sylvie and Loki, everything else outside of that was great. But just their progression as characters just fell super flat with me. Also, the fact that we didn't get any more updates about like the TVA, and what's going on with the rest of the world, and how that's kind of just like put on hold, like they're trying to stall for time to make it like a bigger reveal or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it didn't sit well with me because it's like usually so far with these Marvel TV shows, they tried their best to every episode include like because most some especially with WandaVision, right? With WandaVision, you had everything that was going on inside of Wanda's universe, and then everything that was going on outside of that. And every episode dealt really well with giving you at least a little bit of what's going on both sides of the spectrum of the show, right? Like because whatever's going on outside and whatever's going on inside. Um, with this, it kind of they didn't do that. They didn't give us anything about like what's going on with the TVA. It was touched very briefly when they showed up in the beginning of the episode.
Mhm.
Um, and then after that, for the rest, like the other 40 minutes, it was just them running away on a dying planet, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just I don't know. It was disappointing for me. So 4.5 out of 10. That's what I
Yeah,
give it.
I think for me, I'm giving it a 4. I think it's below average. It gets carried by certain scenes and obviously like the set pieces and the production value of like where they're at and all of that. Um, but yeah, compared to the other two episodes, like this one, definitely kind of like just cat. I had me sitting there. I didn't have any moments where I'm like, you know, excited or anything. It was just kind of like, okay, where's this going? And this is weird. And then it's over. so,
Yep.
so, so yeah. I mean, this is the halfway point because I believe this is 6 episodes long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess yeah. To wrap it up, it was 3 out of 5 for Broly, 4.5 out of 10. I mean, okay, I don't know. Why I said 5. It's 3 out of 10 for Broly, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and then it's 4.5 out of 10 for Goss, and I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. I mean, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Sorry, it's fucking late. Sorry, 3:42.
Fuck it up
Resolution.
all
I'm
over
usually
again.
more amped up at this time because the episode's good. You can tell.
Facts,
But
true.
yeah, thanks for watching everybody who's here in the chat, and thank you again for joining Goss and Broly here on these late night discussions.
Of
But yeah,
course.
we'll be back at it again next week for the next episode of Loki, and I'm trying to remember um, how close are we now to Black Widow?
About
Next month. I know it's next
3 weeks.
month, right?
3
I
3 weeks.
weeks.
think yeah, I think that it's July 9th, right?
It's gonna be tough, dude. During GDQ week.
During GDQ week. um, but yeah, we I think yeah, Black Widow is definitely next. And I'm so excited for that movie. I can't wait to see what it's like after so long. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing a discussion on that whenever that happens. And like I mentioned before, we do these discussions live on twitch.tv/bash. Basically, as soon as they come out, we watch it and then we talk about it right after the episode's over. So until next time, we will see you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.
Bye bye.